I'm Jenny Ayat, and I'm a member of Springton Lakes missions team. I am here with Bethany Hogan to hear about an internship she did last summer. Bethany grew up attending Springton Lake Presbyterian Church and is now a sophomore at Clark Summit University studying intercultural studies. She is our first missionary in training, and so I'm going to ask her some questions so you can hear about what she's been doing. So Bethany, tell us where you worked during the summer of 2020 and what you did there.
So I worked at Camp Sankanac, which is in Chester County, so a little bit from here. I worked there for about 9 weeks. In the first half, I did a day camp counselor, and then the last half, I was an overnight girls camp counselor.
Can you give us an example of how you saw God work in the life of your campers?
One example that comes to mind was an awesome example of God's grace and mercy towards us was there was this one girl in my cabin that it was my first cabin I ever had, and they were 16-year-old girls. They were a bit rough. A lot of them had lots of doubts and confusion, and they were just very lost. And the one girl was faking her salvation and really just didn't know what to do about everything. We had lots of great talks that week. It was super encouraging just to try and pour into her life, even though nothing really seemed to be coming from it. It was really hard just to keep pushing with that. But then we found out the next week, one of my fellow counselors actually led her to Christ, which was huge for the camp. We all had a meeting later that week, and we all just celebrated that she came to Christ. That was so crazy, and we were very thankful for that moment that we all got to celebrate together and just rejoice in that. She had been coming to camp since she was 7 years old, and she was 16 when she came to Christ. So all those years, of her just ignoring it or faking it or just really confused and lost, and just like seeing how God worked through all these different counselors in her life to this moment where now she accepted Christ it was so awesome to see. So that was really cool.
Did you have any campers that you shared the gospel with? Did you have those kinds of opportunities also?
Yeah, so in that same cabin my first week, most of the girls were 16, but I had one 14-year-old who her first time at camp, first time honestly in a Christian camp. She's been to other camps, but not a Christian camp. So for her, it was a very different experience. She wasn't really sure what was happening all the time. She was so sweet, and I actually had a little bit of one-on-one time with her while some of the girls were in the cabin. Her and I were outside, and I just asked her if she knew what salvation was, and she said, yeah, I do. So she explained to me what she thinks salvation was, but that actually didn't line up with what the Bible says and what we're taught and what we believe at our camp and what I believe. So I told her, oh, well, can I share with you what the Bible tells us what salvation is and just share with that? And she goes, okay, sure, And I explained to her the gospel, and I was able to share that with her. And it definitely was a lot for her to take in. I think she was very confused, but talking through it, she was like, wow, this is really cool. And I was like, well, do you want to come to know Christ? She's like, not right now. And I was like, oh, what? I was like, oh my goodness. But then later that week, I think it was the next night, we actually had a missionary who came in and was doing a sermon that night for all the girls. And all my girls were crying. I was crying. He did such an amazing job, really worked in the lives of the girls and in the counselors as well. And he told all the girls to shut their eyes and the counselors keep them open and see what girls raise their hands. And he said, have you accepted Christ tonight? And she rose her hand. I'm sitting in my seat like, oh my goodness. And all my counselors are looking at me like, oh my goodness, this girl's nuts. And I was so excited for her. And later that night, every night in the cabin, I walk around each girl's bed and I pray with them and talk about how they're doing and things like that. And I asked her if she came to know Christ that night, even though I already had known. And she was like, yeah, I did. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited for you. So she was so excited, and she was a little nervous about it. She was like, I can't wait to go home and tell my parents and my sister. None of her family was saved. So she was like excited, nervous. I think it was just super cool to see God work through that and just see like how she was so excited and how much God worked through her. And that was super cool.
That's awesome. And how did your relationship with Christ change as a result of this internship?
Yeah, I think for me, just being able to do devotions each night with my campers, like planning those myself, really diving into his word taught me a lot. So even though I was there to teach the girls about Christ and teach them about things that he's doing and all of that, I was learning as much as they were. I was learning from my girls. God was speaking to me through me for them. So just really diving in his word a lot was super cool. And planning devotions I thought would be specific for each girl and things like that. Really trying to focus on the girls and let Christ work through me was super cool, just to see how that all happens and works.
And what new things did you learn about yourself through this experience?
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot about leadership. Throughout camp, I was asked to go to different cabins all the weeks. I was never in the same cabin, really. I was all over the camp, just doing different things. So learning a lot about leadership and how to be flexible in leadership was something I think was important to learn. How to be flexible while serving was something that I really learned, and I'm definitely going to use in the future in my ministry and just in life in general as well, just like how to be flexible and continue to serve others and show God's love to them.
How has this experience helped you progress toward pursuing a career in missions?
Yeah, I think for me personally, while I was there, like a lot of you know, I've wanted to be a missionary since I was 5. So I think the big thing about being at camp, like it's in the United States, I wasn't overseas in a missions trip. For me, it was learning that God can still use me while I'm in the United States. He can still use me while I'm waiting to go overseas, while I'm waiting to do whatever he's calling me to do, like using this time I have here to glorify him best I can and share his love with others. So that's been something I've learned a lot about at camp, and just continuing to be missions minded while at home as well.
So Bethany is the first recipient of a Missionary-in-Training scholarship from Springton Lake. The mission team wants to encourage students to consider full-time missions as a viable occupation by helping them develop their gifts and discern their calling to full-time missions. Missions internships can play a valuable role in discerning missionary calling, but students can feel obliged to spend summers earning money. So the missions team offers an internship scholarship to supplement mission internships. If you are interested in finding out more about our Missionary-in-Training program and our internship scholarships, visit the mission page at slpc.org or contact anyone on the missions team. Thank you for watching. And thank you, Bethany, for sharing.
Thank you.